They told you attention is everything. They told you to be seen, to be loud, to be present in every room as if presence itself is currency. But attention is a market with a hidden fee. The fee is visibility, and the ones who pay it rarely hold the pen that writes the rules. You notice it slowly. The loud compete for applause, the quiet compete for position. The loud accumulate followers, the quiet accumulate leverage. The loud ask for permission to speak, the quiet decide whose microphone works. You were taught to sprint, to prove, to announce. But the game is not a race. It is a ledger, and in ledgers, noise is just friction. You work harder. You speak clearer. You push your way into rooms that feel important. But the temperature of those rooms is wrong, too bright, too crowded. You sense the hum of performance suffocating substance. The agenda follows the cameras, not the consequences. And you begin to suspect, power is not where everyone is looking. Power is where almost no one looks. Here's the part no one dares to admit. The wise do not fight for the stage. They finance it. They select the script. They ensure the theater. And they leave before curtain call, so their faces never become part of the story. You see them only in outcomes, measurements that look like fate, headlines that look like weather, prices that move as if by natural law. You ask quietly why some rise without running, and the answer is colder than motivation. It is structure, it is custody, it is ownership of bottlenecks where others must pass to be heard, to be paid, to be noticed. The loud are tenants of attention, the quiet are landlords of access. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The paradox is cruel. The more you need attention, the less you can afford to be opaque. You must explain yourself. You must defend your tone. You must perform reliability on command. But the wise convert at it. Tension into artifacts, contracts, options, equity, preferential rights that earn when their mouth stays shut. Silence becomes a yield. Restraint becomes a dividend. Consider how decisions travel. When you speak, you expose your angle to resistance. When you withhold, you collect information nobody can use against you. Silence accepts nothing, negates nothing, promises nothing. It is the tallest wall and the deepest well. In negotiation, he who speaks first spends first. He who reveals the number loses the mystery that could have priced higher. Your instinct to justify is how you lose margin. But what if the marketplace itself rewards those who can afford not to announce? Then the truest luxury is not luxury at all. It is optionality. The capacity to do nothing, to say nothing, to wait while others reveal their hunger. The lion in tall grass, not asleep, simply unwilling to chase when fear can do the chasing for him. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Power prefers the slowest timing. Money compounds when it isn't interrupted. Networks grow when they feel organic, not desperate. The wise make their moves at the pace of certainty, not fast, not slow, inevitable. They use silence to edit impulse out of the deal. They remove urgency from their blood because urgency is auctioneer's music and auctions reward the seller. You are told to put yourself out there, but the phrase hides a trap. Out where? Out into whose framing? Out into platforms that tax you in exchange for a fluctuating dose of strangers' attention? The ones you emulate haven't been out there for years. They are upstream, where attention is sourced, packaged, and sold to you as opportunity. They arbitrate the gap between what crowds want now and what institutions will need later. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The wise dominate the loud, because dominance is not a sound. It is the calm certainty of knowing that others must pass through your gates. It is the stillness of a reservoir, while the valley fights for rain. You do not need to win arguments when you price the podium. You do not need to hunt when the migration path crosses your land. Your job is not to be seen. It is to become unavoidable. Detachment follows. Not apathy, discipline. You stop explaining. You start designing. You stop proving. You acquire position. You say less, and somehow the world answers faster. You look at the crowd and recognize your old reflection. Hungry, loud, visible, exhausted. You feel a brief ache. Then you remember. The deal clears in silence. The wire lands in silence. The contract auto-renews in silence. The world's loudest thunder hides the quiet law that made the lightning possible. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You were told value is discovered, like gold in a riverbed, waiting for the honest prospector. But value, as you experience it, behaves more like a story. It is crafted, rehearsed, approved by committees you've never met. And once you see the scaffolding, the mystique of price dissolves into a choreography of incentives. It begins with the desire to agree. Humans want to believe that certain things matter more than others. They want authority to sanctify their preferences. They want assurance that what they buy will hold its status in the eyes of their tribe. So value does not start at the object. It starts at the relationships around it, the critics who bless, the collectors who anchor, the market makers who defend. And yet, the truth is darker. Priceless is a signal of power, not purity. It means a few hands can name the price and a larger crowd will repeat it. It means the narrative has matured to a point where disbelief is costly. If you doubt the sanctity of the object, you risk exile from the network that profits by its sanctity. Doubt becomes expensive, so people rent belief. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The rich understand this. They don't simply buy assets. They invest in the mechanisms that stabilize belief about those assets. Index construction, ratings criteria, scarcity controls, custody layers. The myth of merit is not eliminated. It is engineered into predictable inputs. Quality will matter, yes, but quality without endorsement is an unopened vault. But what if the product is ordinary? Then the launch must be extraordinary. The symbol must outrun the substance. It is not fraud, it is framing. Packaging is a sermon. Distribution is a cathedral. The brand becomes a passport that smuggles mediocrity through customs marked premium. The stamp is not the lie. The stamp is the way the world negotiates confusion. Here's the part no one dares to admit. A value that isn't defended is a rumor. A value that is defended becomes an institution. Defended by whom? By those whose balance sheets benefit from its survival. Watch where the protection comes from. Insurance policies, legal carve-outs, media scaffolds, academic consensus. That is not conspiracy, it is coordination. The world is not a free market of ideas. It is an arena of alliances, keeping certain ideas expensive to doubt. And in that silence, the truth whispers. If value is a treaty, your task is to sit closer to the treaty table. Instead of asking, is this worth it? You ask, who needs it to remain worth it? You map which reputations would sink if the story changed. You learn to price narrative risk the way actuaries price flood zones. You stop falling in love with the object and start studying the oxygen feeding its flame. Scarcity is the oldest magic. It makes impatience look like wisdom. But engineered scarcity is the modern altar. Limited runs, invite-only access, wait lists that reward social proof. Your hunger is counted and resold back to you as exclusivity. The wise are not angry at this. They design it. They know that a product becomes valuable when enough important people would lose face if it were not. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Currency works because someone promises to make your disbelief hurt. Brands work because someone promises to make your skepticism lonely. Art works because someone promises to keep the auction doors closed until the right bidder arrives. The powerful are custodians of belief. They warehouse trust. They lend it at a rate. You finally ask the right question. How do I move from consumer of narratives to engineer of them? The answer is not to shout a better story. It is to build a structure in which your story pays other people for keeping it alive. Affiliations, royalties, revenue shares. The flock protects what feeds it. It is not good or evil. It is the physics of status in a crowded world. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You think you are free because no one shouts at you, because your chains are polite, because every rule arrives with a reason and a smile. But obedience today is not a whip. It is a design. It is 1,000 small concessions disguised as professional maturity. You begin with pride in your responsibility. You meet deadlines. You honor policies. You accept process as the price of scale. The emails arrive. We're updating our terms. We're improving your experience. We're enhancing security. None of them are lies. All of them are nets. Each thread costs nothing. The web is everything. And yet, the truth is darker. Control expands not by force but by depletion. Your attention is drained by compliance rituals, forms, trainings, checkboxes, until rebellion is simply too tiring. You don't submit because you are weak. You submit because the alternative steals time you cannot afford to lose. Dependency is engineered by exhausting the choices that would make you independent. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The rich architect routines that reduce variance. The rest live inside them. When tragedy strikes, you learn how fragile your freedoms are. Your accounts can be temporarily restricted, your speech demoted, your mobility reviewed. No one person is punishing you. The system is merely enforcing safety. This is the genius of modern power. Nobody is the villain, so everybody obeys. But what if guilt itself is the leash? You are taught to locate failure within. I should have read the fine print. I agreed to the terms. I could have moved sooner. Self-reproach is the cheapest police force ever invented. When you punish yourself, the institution saves money. When you internalize the rule, you carry their baton for free. Here's the part no one dares to admit. Promotion can be a prettier prison. More pay, narrower autonomy. A nicer title, tighter surveillance. The higher you climb, the more visible you become. The more your behavior must harmonize with the culture that confers your status. Dissent becomes career risk. Compliance becomes professional ethics. The cage gains velvet. And in that silence, the truth whispers. Psychology makes the architecture elegant. Loss aversion glues you to the role. Sunk cost tells you to endure one more quarter. Social proof convinces you that your discomfort is normal. Learned helplessness erodes outrage into resignation. The mind becomes a thermostat set by other people's expectations. You call it stability, they call it throughput. But what if you rewire your defaults? You replace, "What if I lose?" with, "What must I own so I cannot be evicted from myself?" You learn the difference between comfort and custody. Comfort is provided. Custody is controlled. Comfort can be withdrawn in a single policy update. C. Study answers to no memo. It is the property of your will made external. Savings beyond reach, skills that travel, reputations that do not rely on a single gate. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You audit your rules. You notice how many are merely habits inherited from institutions that stopped serving you. You cut 2, then 5. You reclaim an hour. You use it not to scroll, but to build something that pays, slowly at first, without seeking approval. The smallest check that arrives outside the architecture of obedience changes your posture more than a promotion ever did. You will not dismantle the structure. You will slip its grasp. You become difficult to penalize. You reduce your surface area for control. You diversify the places where no is an option. This is not rebellion in flames. It is the invisible refusal of a person who no longer confuses being good with being owned. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You are offered a spectacle. It looks like choice. It tastes like victory. It sounds like catharsis. But power loves theater, because theater converts complex capture into simple stories with heroes and villains. The stage absorbs your outrage and returns it as ratings. Meanwhile, the script you never see is the one that lasts. You notice the pattern. A controversy erupts at the perfect time. A face is framed. A narrative escalates into a duel. Commentators divide reality into two digestible sides. You choose a tribe because the human heart hates ambiguity. Certainty is a warm drug. The show must go on. And so it does. And yet, the truth is darker. Outcomes are often decided before the spectacle begins. Sponsorships write invisible stage directions. Lobbyists annotate the script margins. Legal language, quieter than applause, chooses who profits no matter who wins. The audience believes they are watching history. They are watching distribution. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The wise do not fear being wrong on the stage. They fear being visible while wrong. So they fund the set, own the cameras, and define the terms of review. If blame approaches, a new play begins. A fresh antagonist arrives. The plot resets. Everyone debates the moral drama, while capital rebalances itself 1 inch outside the frame. But what if you stop following faces and start tracing flows? Your mind learns to ask, who benefits from this conflict existing? Who profits if either side prevails? Which metrics climb when outrage peaks? The answers are not hidden. They are ignored. The theater demands your belief in its stakes. Refuse belief, and you begin to see the wires. Here's the part no one dares to admit. Most public scandals are price movements with costumes. They regulate markets of attention as surely as policy regulates markets of money. If your focus can be made predictable, your reactions can be arbitraged. Your posts become someone else's pattern recognition. Your loyalty becomes a lever. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You learn the art of narrative fasting. You do not starve. You choose what you consume. You measure your diet of stories like a portfolio. Exposure stabilized, risk limited. Returns defined by insight rather than adrenaline. The silence you cultivate is not apathy. It is the refusal to be a customer of outrage. But what if you must enter the theater? Then enter as an investor, not an actor. Use controversy to surface timing windows. Use virality to test demand without exposing your identity. Use public attention to negotiate private terms. Do not mistake the applause for cash flow. Never confuse the scene for the settlement. And in that silence, the truth whispers. In time, your contempt fades, replaced by understanding. The show is not evil. It is efficient. Societies need stories to coordinate. The problem is not theater. It is forgetting the backstage. Power is the contract stapled to the script. Power is the syndicate behind the ticket booth. You can rage at the performance, or you can own a balcony. You choose the balcony. By now you recognize the pattern. The deepest strength is not acceleration, it is endurance. The loud fight in days, the wise build in decades. The empire you cannot see is the only one that cannot be easily destroyed. It is not a king. It is a system. It is not a shout. It is a settlement. You look for it and find only hints, permissions that never expire, payments that clear while you sleep, contracts that self-execute without ceremony. The infrastructure of power blends into the environment like oxygen. You use it without naming it. You consent without deciding to. And yet, the truth is darker. The quiet empire survives because it earns from your routine. It does not need your love. It needs your repetition. Every subscription, every swipe, every "I'll do it later" feeds a ledger that outlives your mood. The machine is not cruel, it is patient. It turns human variance into predictable cash flows. And in that silence, the truth whispers. The rich do not obsess over moments, they obsess over mechanisms. What pays me when I am silent is the only question that scales. They design rails, standards, protocols, marketplaces, so that others must use their path to move value. They acquire custody layers so that every transaction pays a toll, invisible as air, yet inevitable as gravity. But what if the system can be made to pay you too? Not by shouting, not by begging, but by placing your energy in positions that compound without supervision. You think in custody, not consumption. You invest in skills that produce across domains. You turn a service into a product into a license into a platform. Each step purchases one more hour of your future back from other people's calendars. Here's the part no one dares to admit. Freedom is an accounting problem before it is a moral victory. It is the distribution of your dependencies across systems you can survive. It is the reduction of single points of failure in your life. It is the boring, relentless design of redundancy, multiple incomes, multiple reputations, multiple ways to exit without noise. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You become unreadable. You do not announce pivot or plan. You move like groundwater, slow, inevitable, carving stone with time. Your presence is felt in outcomes. A contract that lands without negotiation. An introduction that arrives without effort. A check that clears without reminder. People call it luck. You know it is engineering. You drew the channel. The river obeyed. The empire you build is not a palace. It is a pattern. It is the quiet habit of making choices that pay later more than they cost now. It is the refusal to be a tenant of platforms you cannot leave. It is the small, almost invisible sovereignty of a person who answers to their own arithmetic. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You do not need to dominate anyone. You need only to become difficult to move without your consent. The wise dominate the loud because they optimized for consent long before they optimized for applause. They knew the crowd would tire. They knew outrage would cycle. They knew the market would revert. They knew that gravity belongs to structure, not sound. So you step away from the stage. You step into the architecture. You choose the long patience of systems over the short sugar of attention. You choose the math that survives storms over the mood that fuels them. You choose the empire that no one can see because it exists in every transaction that requires your permission. And in that silence, the truth whispers. You've felt the edge tonight, the hush beneath the spectacle, the contract beneath the story. You've watched value being invented, obedience being designed, narratives being sold as choices. You've seen why the loud tire and the quiet endure. And somewhere between those lines, you recognized yourself. If you've come this far, you already sense it. Power is not a shout. It is a structure. Leverage lives in the unseen. Rails, rights, rules that pay you when you say nothing. The world will keep asking you to perform. The wise will keep pricing the stage. Stay with the ones who choose clarity over noise. Stay with the line of thought that turns emotion into strategy, attention into ownership, narrative into architecture. This is not a call to be colder. It is an invitation to be sharper, to become unreadable to the forces that profit from your predictability. Subscribe, not for content, but for consciousness. Not to join a crowd, but to join a quiet circle that honors systems over slogans, custody over comfort, signal over spectacle. We return here to refine that sight, to study the mechanisms that move the world, and to build the kind of silence that pays. If you're ready to see deeper, step into the quiet with us.